It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us today. We're sitting down with the Yavapai County Superintendent of Schools, Tim Carter. Welcome back.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
I called you a few weeks ago and had you talk a little bit. And with a 3-minute newscast, there's only so much of Tim Carter we can actually get in and talk about it. But I thought, we'll have you come in a few weeks later, because we were talking about how the school year had been going so far, this very difficult school year that we've been going through, and then how it's going to look when it ends. What does summer school look like? And then hopefully we could talk a little bit about what next school year is going to look like. But we needed to give Tim more time to say what needed to be said, so here you are. So let's start with that. It has been an extremely challenging year for schools.
Unlike anything I've seen in my 46 years.
So how did it go? Where are we at? And we'll start with that.
Well, let's go back to March of last year,
sure.
March of 20, because obviously that's when COVID hit and when the declaration of emergency came out. I think everybody understands that the school just scrambled at that point to do what they could possibly do to finish out the school year. Last summer was a hub of activity from the standpoint that we anticipated that we were going to be out of school probably as much as we were in school. And school districts and charters took advantage of that, trying to make sure that their teachers were up to speed on the use of technology and the software and the broadband was adequate and all of those kind of things. And I will honestly tell people that in and of itself was a huge silver lining to the COVID cloud. It moved us ahead in the world of virtual education far more than we probably would have been had it not been forced on us. So, to be quite honest, the beginning of the school year started off very well, and in Yavapai County, we were almost half and half. We had some folks that stayed virtual. We had some folks that were face-to-face. We had a few that were kind of doing a hybrid in the middle, but it actually worked pretty well. By about November, in that time period, we started having some pretty serious political concerns raised by parents, among others. And they were in two camps. One is they either wanted virtual or they didn't want virtual. They wanted to require face-to-face or they didn't. And then, of course, the third issue dealt with wearing a mask. From November to March was a really difficult political time. Here's a great example. And our governing boards were caught in the middle, and our administrators were caught in the middle. There was about a 2-week window in there where 4 different districts voted on one of those items. And it doesn't really matter which way they voted because different boards voted differently on it. But the vote was 3-2. And so in this particular district, which will remain nameless, the day afterwards we had parents come into my office wanting to recall the 3 board members that had voted in the majority. The next day, a different group of parents came into my office and wanted to recall the 2. Okay. So here we have a recall attempt against 3 for one decision and a recall attempt by a different group for the opposite decision. And how are governing boards supposed to win that?
Right.
I mean, there are definitely camps of people who have strong views. Many of them have put a lot of thought into what they believe and why. There's validity on both sides of that argument. But in many cases, you can't have it both ways. I mean, the board has to make a determination. And that was difficult. So we got to spring break, and we had hoped that things calmed down a little bit. And when the governor then came out with his mandate that everybody was going to be in session for the remainder of the year, that initially caused some turmoil. And then, to be quite honest, for about a 3-week window in there, things were very calm. The calmest it's been since March of 20.
Wow, okay.
From the standpoint of anxiety and people being unhappy. And then the governor says Arizona no longer has a mask mandate for schools, which put that ball right back in the boardrooms of our governing boards. And so now we're back to that same turmoil that we had back between November and February or so. The different districts are making different decisions based on their data and based on what their parents and what their staff and what their students appear to be best for. And at this point, we're about 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks away from being done for the year. And so hopefully, especially with the vaccination numbers that we're seeing, next year will be substantially better, and hopefully we will be face-to-face. You never know. I mean, we have no idea what is going to happen, especially with some of the different types of variants that we're seeing. But I think everybody's got their fingers crossed that next year will be better. This summer, of course, is probably going to be the largest summer school experience we've ever seen.
I was going to say, probably so, huh?
Well, we've got a lot of students that probably need to do some catching up. They probably need some reinforcement. They probably need some recovery. They probably need to focus a little bit more than maybe they have been because they haven't been in class or haven't been working in a modality that works well for them. So, and the good news is that the districts and charters have more federal funds right now than we've ever had specifically for those purposes. So a great majority of our schools are going to have some kind of summer school. Maybe it's going to be one session, maybe it's going to be two, maybe it's going to be required, maybe it's going to be highly recommended, maybe it's going to be optional. I met with the charter directors yesterday, and there are many of them that are going to try to isolate it to a specific student. So this student needs recovery of understanding of fractions. So that's all that student will be working on. And so once they've recovered that, they'll get that credit and be able to move on.
And that'll be based on the individual teacher, that child's teacher.
Correct.
The teacher will say, okay, this student, they were able to participate the whole time and do a great job as if nothing had happened, right, and they're moving forward just fine. Yeah. But this one, I was thinking to myself, thank God my kids are grown and gone. Because if I had to go through this last school year with the way school was set up, where sometimes it's in session, sometimes it's virtual, I'd have pulled the rest of my hair out.
Well, it was difficult for staff. It was difficult for students and families. Yeah. I mean, it was just difficult.
All the way around.
The interesting thing is that we are already starting to tell schools for next year that you need to plan to be face-to-face, because that's what we're hearing from the governor's office, that's what we're hearing from the legislature. We expect you to be face-to-face, or if you're going to be virtual, you have to go through a program called the AOI, the Arizona Online Institute, which is really funded differently than a traditional school face-to-face, and it's funded to a lesser amount. But if you're going to be virtual, you have to be in that system and you have to be funded through that system. It can't be you're in or you're out or it's modified in some way. No, you're either face-to-face or you'll be in the AOI program. Now, there is a bill at the legislature that hasn't passed, that we're watching closely, that would allow governing boards to have that flexibility and give parents that flexibility of saying, no, I want to be in class, and now, okay, something happened, now I want to be able to go virtual and have that flexibility. But the state right now appears to be resisting that.
Okay, all right, let's take our first break. Yavapai County Superintendent of Schools Tim Carter is in studio today. Website is ycesa.com. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
Who doesn't dream of home improvements? Perhaps your kitchen, the real living room. Maybe the bathroom, where you bookend your day. Langstrand Contracting is your one-stop shop from tear down to finishing touches. With 35 years of experience, Chris and his team will work with you to match your family's style and budget. Call Langstrand Contracting today for guidance in bringing your vision to life.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Countywide. Yavapai County School Superintendent Tim Carter is with us in studio today. Their website, ycesa.com. ycesa.com. Okay, so we've gotten through this year. Some kids are going to have summer school, some aren't, but odds are we're going to have quite a few in summer school. So parents have got to be ready for that. There'll be, I imagine, busing to go?
Many districts will.
Buses?
Some won't, but in most cases, especially if you're requiring summer school, more than likely you're going to have to provide the transportation for it.
Do you think it's a good idea that there's two choices for this next school year? Either your child is going to be face-to-face in a school, or they're going to go virtual?
Well, as we were talking on break, I think the world has changed a lot in the last couple of years, and I am very much a local control advocate and always have been. So I like the idea of local jurisdictions being able to make a decision. I mean, if we look just at the Verde Valley, Sedona is not the same as Clarkdale or the same as Camp Verde or Cottonwood. They're all different. They all have different dynamics. So what would be appropriate in one might not be appropriate in the other. So I understand where the state's coming from. The state's looking at this as a financial obligation, realize that education is the largest part of the budget in Arizona. So we get all that. So they're looking at if we had our way, meaning the state legislature, you're going to be in school, in a traditional type of school. We have a system in place under this Arizona Online Institute that if you want the option, it's there, but it's funded differently, but you don't get to jump back and forth. And schools have to apply for AOI. There are several standards that you have to meet, and not all schools either want or could meet them.
Okay.
So what parents want is well, not all parents, but some parents, some vocal parents, want the flexibility to be able to do what they want to do. We want you in school at this time of year. No, now something has happened for whatever reason. We want you home for the next 3 weeks, and then we want you to go back to school. I mean, that's the kind of flexibility that parents want.
Sure. And
one of these days we may get there. But the funding for that is an issue at the state level, trying to figure out ADM and is an in-school experience the same cost as a virtual home experience? Well, the answer is no. They're different. I mean, all you have to do is look at the universities. Same thing with K-12 schools. So we're trying to marry what parents and students and teachers want with the application of history and what we've always had, and the application with new technology that some people now are starting to really embrace, and they like that flexibility. Well, in my way of thinking, the more of that we can make available to people, the better. But there has to be a way to fund all that, and that funding has to be somewhat equitable.
I could see that, where you have a kid who's going to a classroom and he's counted every day, and that school gets that money for that day. But once they're gone and they're in the online, now this online school's getting the money for that. But then we got to switch it back over to here if the child winds up going back to school again, and that gets confusing, and things fall through cracks that way too.
And many of our districts, for example, are not AOI schools.
Okay.
Which means that they technically have to transfer that student from their high school, for example, to that AOI school, and then there would have to be a transfer back. There are problems with it. I mean, it's not something that I don't think over time we can not overcome, but we're in a transition period, and people want what they want right now. They don't necessarily want to wait.
Okay.
And same thing with teachers. I mean, we've got some teachers who want nothing to do with teaching virtually. We've got other people that have discovered it and they go, wow, this is wonderful.
Right. So many things changed in the last year.
Oh, yes.
Lots of things changed. We here at the station for the show here, we've noticed that it's easier to get a hold of ADOT and have ADOT on the show because we can do it through a Zoom meeting. So people that were not necessarily willing to drive 2-3 hours to come and sit down and do a show with me are willing to do that now because they can just click a button and they're here with me. Yeah. And we can do the show and we can reach out further into the state for information, which is nice. We were talking, though, during the break, and I brought up the stage 1 fire restrictions are coming up across Arizona, the whole state, on Friday, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So we tagged the story, be sure to check with your local fire jurisdiction to find out what restrictions are going on in your own backyard, because what's going on in Cottonwood may not be the same that's going on at Copper Canyon or over at Central Arizona Fire in the Prescott Valley area. So you do have to check with all that. And the same thing is going to apply because you say the local control is important to keep. You need to keep up with your local schools.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with Clark-Dell-Jerome School District, you need to contact Clark-Dell-Jerome School District. If you're dealing with Beaver Creek, you need to contact them because they're different. And they may do a lot of things very similarly, but on any given topic, they may have adopted a different policy, and there's nothing wrong with that, perfectly legal in the state of Arizona.
Have we seen the students shift
Students
in terms of how many are in school?
Students are very resilient, especially certain age groups. The pre-K 3, the whole issue for many of them around online was very, very, very difficult because we're asking them to, first of all, deal with the technology that they may not be aware of, and then we're asking them to learn and master things that they obviously don't know. Mm-hmm. Our middle school kids tend to be the most resilient of the group. And for the most part, the high school kids are kind of out in front of all that stuff, in most cases anyway. Right. It's the adults. It's me. It's all of us. Yeah. But it's specifically the parents, and it's specifically the instructors, because they're trying to deal with it in new and different ways. And it has just created some really new dynamics and some great new learning experiences. And to be quite honest, it has created some significant lags for a lot of students.
Okay. All right. Let's take our second break. Again, just check with your local school district or charter school. It's the best thing you can do. YCESA.com is the Yavapai County School Superintendent's website. Tim Carter in studio today. Stick around. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Terrifying jobs. Bull Rider, take 2. Cliff, this seems like a really terrifying job. Why do you do it?
I love protecting the bull riders when they get bucked up.
How big are these bulls?
12 to 2,200 pounds of pure muscle.
You're not cowed by any of this, obviously. Is there anything that scares you?
Yeah. Distracted drivers terrify me.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at candbhomes.com.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family friendly, open 11:30 to 9. Late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Welcome back, Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. County School Superintendent Tim Carter is with us today. We're going to try to punch list a few things if we can. Okay. There was the 4-year bachelor degrees through community colleges that were brought up this week. How is that going to work out? And is that going to be something that the big universities are going to say, we don't like that too much?
Well, I think the big universities have been a little bit resistant to it. Some of the community colleges, especially Eastern Arizona, which kind of led the proposal, were way out in front of it. Others, I think, are still thinking through it. But the reality is it's passed. The governor signed it. And now the community colleges get to decide, do they want to offer what they've traditionally offered, or do they want to get into the world of offering bachelor's degrees or baccalaureate degrees? And if so, in what areas? It certainly will bring education closer to home. It should reduce the cost. It should make it more affordable, and so on. So it's kind of a neat new idea, and many states have done this for years. So nationally, this is not unusual, but it's something that the first time I was aware of it was last year, and it just barely failed last year.
Okay. And then before the show, we were talking about the school voucher program. You said that one died, but it's not dead yet. In the legislature, it could be revived, and we'll see where that one winds up.
Correct.
Okay.
It passed one house. It did not pass the other. So the bill is still out there. It's not really moving, but it is a budget item, so they can always include it in the budget as part of what's called the budget reconciliation bill. And when the budget passes, that portion would pass as well. So you just, until we get to the very last day of the session, sine die, you don't, many of these things are not dead.
Right, yeah, they revitalized. I know the sex education bill just popped back up again. It was dead, but now it's back up again. Correct. So they don't die completely when they're... The other one was Prop 208, the extra charge, the extra tax that we were approved by voters last year that puts extra taxes onto anybody who makes $250,000 or more a year. Mm-hmm. So where's that one at? Because it was in the courts last I had heard.
It is still in the courts. Okay. We've had a preliminary ruling that answered part of the question. The bigger question on the total constitutionality has not been determined yet. We're expecting it almost any time. That will be a very big decision, because that was going to put a lot of additional money into K-12 education.
You're going to have a busy year ahead of you.
I just don't get bored. It's just that simple. We kind of go from one topic to another topic and trying to keep a lot of balls in the air at the same time, and it's difficult. I love my job, and that's one of the reasons I love it, the diversity. Even if it's the same topic, it's not the same in Black Canyon City as it is in Seligman or in Baghdad.
That's that local control you're talking about.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think this job is just the perfect job for an educator.
Mm-hmm. You like it, huh?
I do.
Now, do we see any schools closing, or are the schools all doing fine, or did they lose so many students over this last year? We've got another minute left, so...
No schools that are closing that I know of.
Okay.
There's one charter school that I believe probably will not return, and we are lapsing the Walnut Grove Elementary School District because they're down to 3 students, and there's a section of statute that allows us to do that. So we've gone through a process that took almost a year. And that district is actually going to be geographically divided into 2 areas. The southern portion will go to Wickenburg. The northern portion will go to Kirkland. The kids are already attending Kirkland on tuition. And so that political subdivision will simply no longer exist. It will go away. But the geographical area and the educational needs will be provided by 2 other neighboring school districts.
I want to let you know, too, that Jen Nelson's amazing.
She is.
She does a great job for you, and whenever I send her an email and say, hey, is Tim available for this? Can you help me out with that? She always jumps right on and helps me out right away. I noticed she's not sent me any more vacancies in the school boards. We've got 30 seconds left.
We have them. We actually have them all cleared up.
Wow.
We average about 1 a month, and at the end of last election cycle, because we had so few people want to run for those seats, we had I think at one point we had 12 that were open files and we had to deal with. And we really focused on that, and we had a lot of cooperation from our districts, and we found some great people. And so as of right now, knocking on wood, all of our governing board seats are filled.
And this is real wood, Tim, so you can rely on it. Thank you for coming in today. We're out of time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. YCESA.com, again, is that website. Check with your local district, find out what's going on with your students. This is Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.